Hello and welcome to our latest BEX Community Live event. My name is Jennifer Davis and I'd like to welcome you to this month's topic, Food as Medicine. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Val Schulte. She of course is a board-certified physician in OBGYN and lifestyle medicine. Schulte Wellness opened in Tip, Ohio and serves over 2,000 clients, helping them on their journey to the best version of themselves. Maya, alongside of Dr. Val, is a registered dietitian at Schulte Wellness. She studied at Ohio University, focused on nutrition and specifically on sports nutrition. So she was a collegiate athlete in cross country and track and became aware of the importance of fueling her body with the right foods to improve her own health and her own performance. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love to just let each of you take the mic for a minute and kind of talk about your own journey and, what got you here today.
Thanks, Jen. I'm Dr. Val. So I would say I've always been super interested in health and wellness, but it was probably as I got closer to 40 and then closer to 50, where I was like, okay, things are changing and I better start prioritizing what's going on. And I had been reading a lot of stuff about plant-based nutrition, but for myself as a at-home athlete, we'll say, I thought I really needed to have like all this animal protein. And so I'm reading all the benefits of trying to eliminate that. And then during this time, though, I was also working on opening my business, Schulte Wellness, and studying more about lifestyle medicine. So it wasn't necessarily only about what we're putting in, although that's super important. It's also about, how are we sleeping? How are we exercising? Our social connections, our stress management.
And just to say, I think that experience is the norm. It's not the exception. And so I hope that you really comprehend how valuable the services that you're providing to your clients, because it doesn't exist.
When they come to our center the first time, they're like, whoa. And they come from, sometimes they go to big cities, we are not in a big city,
Right.
I always say, I feel like I'm 10 years ahead of medicine, especially where I'm at, because I know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't take insurance, and some people are, really turned off by that. But I'm like, so since when did your insurance company actually care about your health?
So Maya, we've made you just sit there looking pretty for the last 15 minutes. So why don't you go ahead and give us your version of your bio?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I wanted to say, first off, I don't only just like to work with athletes. I really do have passion for others as well,
GI stuff. She likes
GI
other things.
stuff.
But I always say if she got her choice on a daily basis, athletes like fuels her fire.
Yeah, definitely. When I grew up though, like I did grow up, running all of the time, playing a lot of sports. I played all of the sports, at one point, but I also had a lot of health issues growing up. And so a lot of the things, like I've dealt with so many doctors to the point where I was like, you know what, when I get older, I'm never going to work for a doctor. And for me to be able to work for a doctor says a lot about her, and it was like, you know what, I really need to take it in my own hands, because first of all, I really wanted performance to go, a lot further than what it really did for me. But I thought, you know what, this medication's only making things worse. So everything that I was put on, I was like, you know what, no more of that. I'm going to rely solely on food and fixing any deficiencies that I have.
When you have a patient come in for the first time, where do you start trying to figure out what food they need on their plates?
You know what? I think we would agree on the same thing, is that fiber aspect on there. Most people don't get enough of that, and most people rely on eating out for most of their meals. And so, if your diet is mainly processed foods, you're not going to feel how you want to, and your deficiencies are going to be even worse. And then you're not going to feel great doing whatever you love to do. So overall quality and whole foods is what most people lack on their plate.
Talk to the biology of the gut health, because I think that's something that all of us don't know enough about, and what we do know is probably not right.
So I go through this test a lot. It's this gut zoomer test that I'm obsessed with, and it's like 30 pages long. And if you want to know anything about what your gut microbiome looks like, that's it. It's such a good test to show what your microbiome looks like. There's a lot of things like SIBO, or, people think they have IBS, but it's actually a bacterial overgrowth. They think, maybe they have Crohn's or something like that, but it's like just maybe a little inflammation caused by a bacterial overgrowth. There are so many things to look at. And like online, I see a lot on, Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Like, hey, drink this for your gut. If you have these symptoms, drink this. And I'm like, I would never recommend that.
So the other part of the equation is our hormones. What's the baseline? Is checking your hormones just as simple as going to the doctor, having a blood test? Like what's the best route there to find out what my baseline is?
Yeah. So definitely, you can just the problem is this, a lot of times doctors will say, well, okay, when was your last period? For example, if you're talking about menopause versus perimenopause. So menopause is technically you haven't had a period for a year, your ovaries have shut down. The majority of your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone comes out of your ovaries. Okay. Our hormones are hugely anti-aging and super important for us. So I never get concerned about using hormones in people. Now, obviously, if the patient had a history of breast cancer, I need to be a little bit more careful with how I'm going to treat them or when their cancer was. But outside of that, it really can help. So, hormones protect our heart. They protect our brains. Okay. Alzheimer's and dementia is the 6th leading cause of death currently in the United States. And they keep our bones strong.
I'm hoping that our viewers gain from today is to understand that, we have to be in charge of our own health. We have to take responsibility out of the hands of the medical professionals. And I'm going to address the food side of it first, because I think that's the harder part, right? I think, once I know where my baseline is, what do I do next?
So if your weakness is eating out every single day, or weekends you're eating out 4 times or so, and maybe drinking is one of those big things too. And you can't help but have a drink or 2 every single night, or on the weekends, it's a lot of drinking, It's also maybe like movement. We disregard food, but movement is a huge part, So then it's like, okay, let's take some of those out and let's make food at home. Let's meal prep for the next week. And then just by doing that, you're minimizing the processed foods if you're making most of your food. And then also you're taking out a lot of sodium, a lot of fat content, and a lot of calories. Maybe fluid is another thing. That's what I always talk to people about too. It's maybe they're drinking most of their calories and then not really reaching for the water.
From my perspective, sometimes just as simple as like looking what you're doing from a fibers perspective, and again, people aren't consuming a lot of times enough, and that can help eliminate like excess toxins, or even if they have too many hormones circulating around or whatever. So
now what's next? What's the, if you were going to say these are the top 10 habits that we're going to get rid of one at a time. So we're going to get rid of, we're going to add water. What's the second thing you want to do?
I always do say, what can you add instead of take away? Because if you start adding things, you're most likely to start taking away things anyway, right? Like if you start adding that water in, now you're probably going to drink less pop anyway. I really always focus on that. The 3 things, if I would say to look at first, is fluid, fiber, and protein. And if you're not full after focusing on those 3 things, maybe you're still not eating enough. So, calorie wise, I track your calories. If you don't know where you're at first, and you're like, okay, do I try keto? Do I try intermittent fasting? Do I try this? Do I try that? Look at your diet first and start seeing what you can add to it. Yeah. So if you just simplify everything, that is the easiest way to go about it.
And then how does your food make you feel? I ask people that so commonly, like, when you eat a meal, how do you feel after? Because what is our food designed to do? Fuel us. Okay, to make us have energy so we can do our job or whatever we're doing in life. If your food makes you feel ill and your stomach's upset, you have to take medicine for it, you have to lie down on the couch, unbutton your pants, then you're not eating the right foods.